If Democrats continue to hold this critical relief hostage, I will act under my authority as president to get Americans the relief they need. And what we're talking about is deferring the payroll tax for a period of months till the end of the year, and I can extend it at a certain period. Hopefully, I will be here to do the job. We're going to do the job. We've been doing a job like nobody could. Nobody would, actually. And so we're going to have the payroll tax go till the end of the year, and it'll be retroactive to July 1st. So we're going to go back to July 1st, and it'll go to the end of the year, payroll tax. At the end of the year, it may be extended. We're going to enhance unemployment benefits through the end of the year. So unemployment benefits will be, that's a big one, will be brought out to the end of the year, and defer student loan payments and forgive interest until further notice. So students who are paying student loans, and in many cases they're not even allowed to go back into their colleges. Extend the eviction moratorium. We will be extending that so people aren't evicted, not their fault.
But we have asked them for a specific compromise on state and local and a specific compromise on unemployment. We have not received proposals on that. Let me just say, as I said before, I think there's other areas we have made a lot of progress on. We know we need broadband for kids to be able to access who can't get in. I think we can reach an agreement on that. The Speaker just mentioned food. We want to make sure that kids have food. We're not going to agree to long-term policy changes, but the things that they wanted through next year, through January, we've agreed to. So I think there's a lot of areas of compromise. I think if we can reach an agreement on state and local and unemployment, we will reach an overall deal. And if we can't, we can't.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just to hear the comments from Senator Schumer and Speaker Pelosi saying that they want a deal when behind closed doors their actions do not indicate the same thing. And as we look at this particular issue, the Secretary is right. We've offered $105 billion for children to attend school. The Democrats said that's not enough. They at $915 billion for state and local. That's where they were 2 weeks ago. Today, they're at $915 billion. Now, if you're talking about compromise, even with their $1 trillion Washington, D.C. magical way of saying they're going to come down $1 trillion, they can't come up with any significant cuts in their bill. What they want is a $2.5 trillion blank check. And I can just tell you the president has encouraged us not only to negotiate and, as the secretary indicated, to come back and negotiate in good faith. But at this point, I'm extremely disappointed that we came up here today just to hear the same thing repeated over and over again, which is the same thing that we've heard repeated for the last 2 weeks.
So the chief and I will recommend to the president, based upon our lack of activity today, to move forward with some executive orders. Again, we agree with the Speaker. This is not the first choice, but people have run out of the enhanced unemployment, so that is something we will recommend an executive order on. And it relates to rental foreclosures. We will recommend a executive order on that, and also student loans. So it's going to take a little bit of time for us to finalize these and process them, but we'll do them as quickly as we can because the president wants action. He realizes, again, despite what was a big pickup in jobs, there's still too many people that are impacted by this.
Is there any way you could go on? They said come back to, if you are willing to talk about a $2 trillion, roughly $2 trillion.
They didn't say that. I watched it. They said come back with a different offer. They're not at $2 trillion. And
she's talking about it, you guys coming up $1 trillion.
Let me just say, there
come
are.
Back if you're willing to do that. Do you think you would be willing at any point to compromise?
Again, what I would say is there's both a top-line issue, but there are also policy issues. I think, again, let me just emphasize, I think there are areas where there is broad bipartisan agreement. It doesn't mean that we've finished all those areas, but whether it's the PPP, whether it's other areas, again, on the school issue, we have a broad understanding of what we want to accomplish. We're still going back and forth on some numbers, and we're going to be fact-based. As I said, we're reaching out to states to make sure we have good numbers. But at this point, we're going to recommend to the president that over the weekend we move forward with some executive actions.
Would the UI number be 600, or what would it be? What can people expect to
Again, I think, as you know, we've made a compromise offer on UI as part of the legislation. I think it's a very fair proposal that covers the issues. And again, we have been willing to compromise on UI. We've been willing to compromise on state and local. We understand there are workers in state and local governments. There's firefighters, there's police, there's first responders, there's people who are in hospitals that have been working round the clock because of this virus, and we understand we need to pick up those costs. So again, it's something we're addressing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think probably the other thing that is fair to point out is where we hear this compassionate talk, the enhanced unemployment has expired. The Democrats have had an opportunity multiple times to extend even what we're doing right now, and they have consistently said no. Where is the compromise in any of that? It's important that as we look at this, and the Secretary was right, they've made no offers as it relates to enhanced unemployment, and they've made no offers as it relates to state and local funding. Both of those are still where they were 2 weeks ago.
And we are very flexible. If there's areas of agreement that we can agree on, pass legislation, and come back to the areas outside of that, we'll do that. We want to move forward for the American people.
It seems, I mean, just listening to what you guys have said for the past 2 weeks and what you're saying now, you've been saying the same thing respectfully. The negotiations have been in the same place they've now been for 2 weeks. There's not going to be a bill at this point. You guys will concede that
we're not
based on logic that talks are no
again,
longer
I don't want to jump to conclusions. What I will say is
you guys have had the same position for 2 weeks now.
Let me just say, in all fairness, we have cataloged a lot of issues. So there have been times we've gone through. We understand their area. They understand us. There are areas I am very confident that we can compromise and reach an agreement.
But she's not willing, she said that.
She is not willing to do a partial deal. Again, I don't want to speculate as to whether there is an agreement or not. We will continue to try to get an agreement that's in the best interest of the people, and that's why we're here.
But in the meantime, we're going to take executive orders to try to alleviate some of the pain that people are experiencing. This is not a perfect answer. We'll be the first ones to say that. But it is all that we can do and all the president can do within the confines of his executive power, and we're going to encourage him to do that.
Do you anticipate this will go into the CR, or do you anticipate this will roll until next month? I mean,
I don't want to anticipate anything. Again, just as they said, we're open to listen to new offers. Again, if they have compromises on UI and state and local, we're ready to be here and negotiate. Thank you.
As you know, we have been mightily trying to find common ground with our colleagues. It's hard when your values are so different in terms of bubble up from the working class families instead of trickle down from above. Yesterday, I offered to them, we'll take down $1 trillion if you add $1 trillion in. They said absolutely not. If we could do that, if we take down $1 trillion and they add $1 trillion, we'll be within range. We'll be within range, but we must meet the needs of the American people. We could come down some because we can change the dates of expiration, the rest of that, but not undermine our priorities to meet the needs of the American people. And it is, we're in a big different place. Again, we believe in science and governance in terms of addressing the virus that we need to do, and that's how we're going to open our economy. In terms of livelihoods, we're honoring our heroes. It doesn't do anything for our economy to have more people on unemployment, especially when they are our heroes.